Hey guys, I'm back. Sorry I missed last week. I know I was trying to do this weekly, but honestly the week just got away from me. Was really busy, and then I had my son over the weekend, so I don't really like to record these when he's home, just because he doesn't need to hear it and relive parts of it that he knows about, because luckily in my situation the kids weren't really around much when things were happening. So let's go ahead and get started with this video. At the end I will tell you guys some stuff that happened today. Yeah, I just want you guys to know, like, it's, even though I've healed and I'm moving forward and I'm in a much better place, like, I just want everyone to know that, like, things still happen. Life still takes a hold. Yeah, I'll explain more later. So how we started off was the last time he put his hands on me. Well, the first time. How we ended was, yeah, you guys got it. Yeah, you guys should already know by now. You get the real me. I don't edit this stuff. I just go with it. So literally this is like if we were having conversation face to face. Like, it is what it is. Anyway, so it was October, and it was the first time he had put his hands on me. He had put his hands on my neck, and it choked me. So from here on out, I'm gonna be completely honest. When certain things happen, I may not remember the exact day or order or anything like that, because like I explained in my first video, you go into this like fight or flight moment, and your body constantly feels like it's fighting, and you go into the survival mode. And what a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to domestic abuse relationships and situations is that honestly your brain and your memory get very foggy and cloudy. And it's kind of like when people have depression and anxiety or even ADHD, like, your brain just kind of, so I may not know exact order on some of the next things coming up, just because that's when that following year is when things got the most intense. But anyway, so October happened, and then we had Halloween and took the kids trick-or-treating, and that was great. We also had my son's birthday, which is in November, and it was his first party in the new house at this point, and it was a great party. We had a sleepover. He was super excited. I love to go all out for kids' birthdays. Like, it's my thing. Anybody who knows me knows that. I like to decorate. I'm that mom. Okay, guys? I'm that mom. So Thanksgiving came around, which I believe we had at my aunt's that year. And it was great. Keep in mind, this whole time, we have a planned wedding date of May. So I'm also doing wedding planning in the midst of all this. And then somewhere in either, honestly, I don't know if it was October, November, December. I just know it was before Christmas, because before we went back to his house. Well, not his house, his home, where he came from, where he grew up, all that. So we had an argument, and to be completely honest with you, a lot of times he would do what they call a word salad, and the argument would start here, but then this would get thrown in, and this would get thrown in, and this would get thrown in, and so by the end of the argument or conversation, like, I don't remember what half of it was about, or how it started, or anything. To be frankly honest with y'all. But we had gone into, it was a very serious argument. Again, I don't really remember how it started or what it was about. But it got to the point that I I took my wedding ring off, my engagement ring, and tried to give it back to him. Because it came to the point that I was like, I can't do this. I can't do it anymore. And Lord have mercy, that set him off 10 times more than he was already screaming and yelling at me. Please keep in mind, I'm 5'3", and he's around 5'10", 5'11"-ish. So, like, clearly I have to look, I gotta look up to a lot of people. But we were in the kitchen, and he has a very, very deep voice. You guys will hear that later on in the videos. Like I said, I have recordings and photos and everything, so it was quite intimidating, especially when he would get loud. Just that deep, booming, in your face voice coming at you. And so in the middle of the argument, he had grabbed a frying pan that my mom had given us. It is a big frying pan. It's probably the biggest one I own still. Huge. It was deep. It was huge. And for some reason, he had it in his hand. I believe he was doing dishes, or I was doing dishes. And so, he had it in his hand, and he got so angry, and he was threatening to hit me across the face, or across the head with it. And, of course, at this point, I'm crying. I'm, irate, because I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't want to do this. I was already scared. Like, from the time he put his hands around my neck to this, even though things were going fairly smooth for the most part, there was still the arguments. There was still the distrust with him when it came to the females. There was still, all those things, emotionally that was happening and stuff, not just the physical. And so he was threatening me with this frying pan. And next thing you know, he lifts it and swings it and hits it as hard as he can on the corner of the counter. And to the point, it literally dented in the side of this frying pan. Like, I could have brought it and showed you guys, because I still have the frying pan, because it is one of my favorites. But this is, what I'm trying to explain to you guys is, this is a thick, heavy metal frying pan that this man literally indented one of the sides on, and had been threatening to hit that across my head. So seeing what he could do to that frying pan on the counter obviously traumatized me even more of what he could do with that frying pan across my head. And I walked away from him, which later on you'll find out wasn't easy to do. I walked away from him and went to the living room, and he proceeds to put his hands around my neck again. This time I wasn't against a wall or anything like that. I was on the back of the couch. So in my head, I'm like, okay, luckily he can't push me up against anything. So, like, the pressure wasn't really all that hard on my neck. Obviously, I still didn't want his hands there and was trying to get his hands off of me. And he finally let go. And then I felt like it always happened when he realized, like, no, I'm done. Like, I was ready to grab my things and leave. My son was at his dad's, and his daughter was at her mom's. So kids weren't home. It was just him and I was done. Like, at that point, I was ready to just walk away from the relationship. And then came the love bombing. He was really great at this, guys. Let me tell you. It became, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. I love you so much. I love our family. I love our kids. Like, I love our, where we're going in life. Like, it was over amounts of positivity and, sadness from him. And You know, he was trying to hug on me and kiss on me and love on me and apologize to me. And I believed him. I did believe him at that point. Just because, I mean, yes, he's put his hands on me 2 times now. But I don't know. That mind manipulation had me believe him. That, you know what? He won't do it again. He's not going to do it again. He loves me. He loves our kids. He wants to have kids together. You know, we're getting married. Like, I believed him. So I forgave him. And something I always noticed whenever we would get into arguments, especially if it got physical, but in general, whenever we got into an argument, it was always love bombing afterwards until the very end. I'll explain that later. And then life would go back to like a fairy tale. Like, to when we first met. Like, sorry, I'm saying like a lot. But literally, like, after these arguments, the next, well, in the beginning, months or so after a big argument, it would be what you would call the honeymoon stage again. Like, he would go back to being this perfect, amazing person that, you know, I said yes to when he proposed. And then came Christmas, and we went to my family's Christmas Day and spent a couple hours with my family, and that afternoon we hit the road and we went back home to where he's from. Long drive. I believe GPS says 17 hours, but with 2 kids and 2 dogs, definitely took more than 17 hours. So this was the first time I had talked to his mom via FaceTime, and his sisters, nieces, nephew, things like that. So, like, they all knew who I was. I knew who they all were. So this was just my first time getting to meet them in person, as well as, like, his dad's side of his family that he didn't really talk to too much, compared to his mom's side. So we went out there. We stayed at his mom's, and she greeted us with open arms. She was already calling my son her grandson, was already calling me her daughter, like, open arms. Fried us some chicken when she knew we were about an hour away. Fried up some chicken and some potatoes, and it was great. They're from the South, so anybody knows, they got good food, let's be real. So we got there, and honestly, day by day, I can't really remember everything we did. But we spent a lot of time with his family. Drove around to different family members, met his aunts, uncles, cousins. I met the people who were going to be on his side of the wedding, which was his cousin and his brother who lived out there. The other people were here where we lived. So obviously I already knew them. And it was a good time. It was a real good time. It was nice to see where he came from and, you know, things like that. Well, you know, gut feelings get to you. And literally the day we were going to leave, me and his sister were sitting in the car, and his phone was on the charger, and he was outside messing with a dirt bike with his sister's boyfriend, and his phone just kept going off. And I'm like, what the hell? Because like, we're with your family. Like, I know you got friends back home, but, like, it was just weird. And so I happen to look, and all I see is Snapchat notification. One after another. Females' names. One after the other. Like, literally. And I'm like, what the hell? And And I was like, I really didn't want to look into his phone, like, especially when his sister's right there and, you know, we're at his mom's. But I'm like, this is bullshit. So I look at the messages. And it makes me sick still now thinking about it, because I can remember the comments and the words, and it sticks with you. And he was making comments to women about, oh, are you gonna let me give you this late birthday present when I get back? And it's just inappropriate comments. So let's keep in mind, yes, this has happened before, but when it happened before, it was more just like him sending emojis on girls' stories. Now he's having full-blown conversations with women. Provocative, inappropriate conversations with women. Calling them pet names that he calls me. That made me even more sick. So I get out of the car, I throw his phone, and I go in the house. His mom could clearly see I was upset. And she's like, honey, what's wrong? And I was over it. So, of course, I told her. I was like, he is entertaining women. Like, he's flirting with women, saying things like this to other women on his phone. I just saw them all. Like, we'd had this issue in the past, and he said he wasn't going to do it anymore, and he's still doing it. I was like, you don't do that to somebody that you want to marry. You don't do that to somebody and bring them out here to meet your family. Like, you just don't do that. Like, and she's shorter than I am, and she goes right outside, gets in his face, and tells him that he either needs to clean up his act or he needs to leave me where he found me, because that is not how she raised him. Of course, he tells her it's none of her business, and so on and so forth. But she got in his face, and she was not scared to, you know, she had to whip that boy. She was going to. That was her son, no matter how big he was compared to her and stuff. And I just really respected her for that, in the aspect of, like, she stood up for another woman, regardless if it was her son or not, you know? So I respected her a lot for that, and I appreciated it for, you know, and I apologize for bringing any drama in her house. You know, but sometimes you can't hold it in, you know? So we get on the road to head back. Obviously, I was done. I was pissed off. But now I had to be in the car with this man for at least 17 hours of a drive, which, like I said, we all know ended up being longer because we had both our kids and 2 dogs with us. So we're in the car. Obviously, a lot of talking is done. And it becomes his reasoning for talking to these women was he wanted to see if I was still getting in his phone. So he was purposely having these conversations and talking to these women just to see if I was still getting in his phone. Please tell me you all are seeing the red flags there too, right? And, of course, I told him that's ridiculous and it's wrong. I was like, you know, we already have our issues and you're going to go and do that. You don't think that's going to cause more issues now? Especially if you're telling me you're doing it intentionally? Like, so to me, you're intentionally doing something to hurt me. Like, you know it's going to hurt me if I see it. But you're going to do it regardless just because you want to see if I was still getting in your phone? Yeah, guys. So, we get back. By the time we get back, I became numb to the situation. And it became a I won't do it again situation. I told y'all, right? Like, as I talk about it, I feel like, man, she's stupid. What was she thinking? But you know what? I shouldn't do that to myself. Because, have you ever noticed society as a whole, when people are in domestic abuse situations, a lot of times what you hear is, why doesn't she leave? Why does she put up with what he does to her? Why does she do this? Or he, I mean, I'm not trying to genderize because I know it goes both ways. But you hear that constantly. about, like, why doesn't that person just leave? Why does that person put up with this or that? Why does that person, why does that person, why does that person, why does that person? And rarely do you ever hear someone say, why is that person hitting that person? Why is he speaking to her like that? Why is he treating her like that? Why is he doing those things to her? You rarely hear that. Instead, when it comes to the victim and the survivor, it's, why didn't they leave sooner? Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Yes, don't get me wrong. If you're in that situation, get out, please, before it's too late. But why aren't we looking at the abusers? Why aren't we looking at them in the light of, why are they doing those things to these people? Why are they abusing them? Why are they... And that, I feel like, is the big issue when it comes to domestic abuse. Is people aren't looking at the abusers on why they are doing what they're doing. They're looking at the victims and survivors of why they didn't do something or did do something. Like in my case, stayed in a relationship for far too long. Especially when I'm telling you guys all these things that are happening. I know a lot of people are probably thinking it. Like, why did she stay? Why did she stay? And for me, it was a lot of manipulation. A lot of manipulation. And it was a mental mindfuck. And, you know, at that point in time, I felt like I had the perfect life. I had the house. I had the kids. I had the fiance. I had the wedding being planned. I had the dogs. Everything was coming together. And so, along with all the manipulation, it was almost like a guilt of like, I'm going to destroy this life I've built that seems to be perfect. Like, literally, if you looked at social media, you were to look through my Facebook, you would have had no idea. I mean, to be honest with you, nobody had any idea other than the one person I talked to in October, which was his cousin's girlfriend. Other than that, nobody had any idea of anything that was going on. Until February. And in February, I canceled the wedding. Well, postponed the wedding. COVID had started hitting, and it was the perfect excuse to tell everybody why we were postponing the wedding. But that wasn't really why. So, he had a lot of rules. A lot of rules. One being I had to get up and make him breakfast every morning to take to work and pack his lunch. Another was sex was a requirement. Literal requirement. Like every single night. If I didn't say I love you and good night before going to sleep, it was a fight and an argument. I could never just like be watching TV with him and fall asleep. Because I knew I was going to go to sleep. So I should have said goodnight and I love him and give him a kiss. I know plenty of you know there's been plenty of times where you're watching a show and you start to get kind of drowsy, but you don't expect to fall asleep, and then you just happen to fall asleep. Especially when you work full time, take care of 2 kids, take care of 2 dogs. It's not, you know. Well, there was one night we got into an argument. Sorry, I had my slides on. I took them off. We got into an argument. And it was because that exact situation happened. I was watching TV with him. We were laying in bed watching TV. And I dozed off. He literally woke me up to yell at me that I had fallen asleep without telling him I loved him and good night. So he got upset. and angry. And it became, if this isn't what you want, then we don't have to do this. All I did was fall asleep. So it became a thing, and he ended up going downstairs and sleeping on the couch. This is the first and only time that ever happened. And I tried to follow him downstairs and be like, seriously? Like, this is really okay. I tried apologizing. I always apologize for everything, even if it wasn't anything I did. But I tried to apologize, and he was just, had his attitude and was gonna sleep on the couch. And I was like, whatever. At that point, I got tired of trying to apologize and convince him to come back to bed. So I went upstairs and went to bed. The next day, got up, made him breakfast, packed his lunch. He was dead emotionally towards me. Wouldn't speak to me really at all either. And he left for work. I took my son to school. Well, my son went to a school that was literally next door to my job downtown. And so took him to school, went to work. And he didn't speak to me all day long. All day long. And I got scared. Because to hear from him, like, it was one of those things that it was like, I would rather hear from him, like, yelling at me, arguing with me, than to not hear from him at all. Because then it was like, I didn't know what he was thinking. I didn't know where his brain was. I didn't know what I was coming home to. And I was scared. I was terrified. Because I didn't know what to expect when I got home. And this was on a Friday. So I talked to some people at work and finally told people what was going on. This is when I kind of started speaking up a little bit. And a couple of my coworkers was like, you probably shouldn't go home. Like, they were scared for me at that point. So I went to my mom's after work and waited for her to get home. And then I finally told my mom what had been going on. Her and I went to the house to grab some of my things. And he was there. He kept trying to talk to me. And my mom wouldn't let him. And I grabbed my things and then was like, I'm staying with my mom for the weekend. Like, I'm not going to be here. And he didn't understand. He kept all over a little argument. Like, this, and that. And I'm like, he didn't understand that, yeah, that argument that night wasn't that big compared to other ones we had had. But knowing what it could escalate to terrified me. And I didn't want to be in that situation again. And my uncle then showed up also. My mom had called him and told him what had happened. Or had been happening. And I was able to leave with my mom. And my uncle, he comes out to the car to talk to me and ask me some questions. And then he straight up told me, he was like, I know guys like him. He was like, if he hasn't cheated on you in the past, he will. Like, just based off of, like, his cockiness and arrogance that he was giving off to my uncle during the situation, in which now my mom and uncle both knew he had put his hands on me. They knew about him entertaining other females. Yeah, there was a list of it. Like, it was almost like he knew I would come back, you know? Which I did, clearly. But I went to my mom's. My son went to his dad's that weekend. and stuff. But my son, that first night, Friday night, he was so excited to spend the night at Grandma and Papa's house, just because he didn't stay the night there very much, since we had moved into the house, you know, things just going on and stuff. So he was really excited. He just thought we were having a sleepover at Grandma and Papa's. Like, my son had no idea what was actually going on. While I was at my mom's, he was constantly texting me, trying to call me and talk to me. And I just was like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, I don't want to do this, you know. And then finally, Saturday night, he convinced me to just come talk to him. Just come talk to him. So I did. This is when I learned about, I started noticing. We'll get to it. But realization came to me after this situation and conversation and argument and such. So I come to the house, and he had been drinking, and he was crying. I had never seen this man cry, ever a day in my life that I've known him. And he was crying and apologetic and sorry and literally on his knees apologizing. Please keep in mind, I told you, typically I'm the one apologizing for stuff I didn't even have anything to do with. And I told him that I would forgive him and we would work on things, but the wedding was being postponed because I was not going to marry him with how he was. I wasn't. And he accepted it. Wasn't happy about it, but accepted it. And then I find out that Friday night that I left, he went out drinking with some friends and went to a strip club. Yeah. And then Saturday night, oh, he's so sorry and doesn't want me to ever leave him. But yet the first night I'm gone, you're out partying. Okay, cool. And then he also told me later on, well, at the time he told me that, you know, he didn't even want to go. His friends made him because of what was going on, and he was calling everybody and telling them that I left him, and so on and so forth. Literally like a year later, when I would bring up that whole conversation, I'm not kidding you guys, he literally does not recall our conversation. He doesn't recall crying. That's how drunk he was, that he doesn't even recall the conversation. And then proceeded to tell me that if he actually did care that much, why would he have gone to a strip club and done this and that when I left? So, in the moment, it was, oh, they made me. And then a year later, when it gets brought up, it's, I didn't actually care. So, wedding got postponed / canceled at the moment. And I'm going to leave it there. There is a big thing that happened when the wedding got canceled / postponed. But I'm going to stop it there. Just because this is getting kind of long, which I know I missed last week, but I still don't want you guys to have to sit here forever watching these. And I wanted to tell you about what happened today. Just because I want you guys to understand that it's an internal battle constantly. Like, I'm healing. I won't say I'm healed. I'm healing. So yeah, there's still things that trigger me. Things that still upset me. It happens. It was 3 years of my life that I have to come to the understanding literally meant nothing to that other person. Literally nothing. So anyway, today, I've had a couple boxes that were sent to me from work. So we started working from home with the whole COVID stuff. And they officially said, hey, we're just working from home from here on out. Like, there's no plan ever going back to the office, which, hey, I'm okay with. I like working from home. So they had packed up our boxes and sent us our things from the office. And I won't lie, these boxes have been sitting there for a couple months. And I finally opened them today. And I knew what I was going to have to face when I opened them. I mean, it was my life from 2 years ago. Because it'll be 2 years in March that I've been working from home. So it's just crazy because it's like a time capsule, but like not one you really want to open, you know? So anyway, I had to open these. And I just want to let you guys know, like, social media made life look happy. I know you guys have seen some of these because I've posted them. But it's just to make a point that, like, even though I'm on my healing journey and acceptance of the stuff I went through, there's still things that can, like, upset you and trigger you. Like I said, you can tell it was a long time ago if you look at my son. His hair is barely past his shoulders, and now it's practically to his butt. But, like, this was my life. Like, this was my happy, perfect looking family. Like, this was us. Now all those are probably going to go in the trash. But I just wanted to show you guys that it's like, it's okay. Like, it's okay to get upset. It's okay to get a little angry, maybe even a little sad every once in a while. Because what you're going through, what you have gone through, it is literal trauma. No, it's not going to the war and having, like, PTSD because of that. It's not necessarily... A lot of people think of a trauma as, like, a car accident or someone dying or, like I said, going to the war. Even though it's not those things, it's still trauma. It's still emotional. It's still painful. It's still a lot of that stuff. Oh, look, there's some other pictures. Hold on. I'll show you guys. These ones make me happy, though. The babies. These I will keep because I still love my baby girl. And she will always be my daughter, regardless of anything. I still treat her as my own. I still love her to death. But my babies. If I have to say anything positive that came out of my whole 3-year relationship with this abuser was this little girl right here and the relationship these two have. Like, man. Sorry. Got sidetracked there. But trauma's trauma, guys. And like I've said before, just because what you're going through may not seem as bad as what someone else went through, doesn't make it any less bad, guys. It doesn't. So I just want you all to know, don't reduce what you've gone through. Trauma's trauma, regardless if it's through abusive parents or bad childhood or a bad relationship, you know, bad friends even. Like, trauma's trauma. And I want you guys to know that it's a learning curve and it's a process, and everybody's process is different. And it's okay to have hiccups in the process of healing. It's okay to wonder or have the what ifs. Like, it's okay. Like, as stupid as you may feel sometimes, like, I do wonder sometimes, like, what if I would have actually gotten married? What if I would have gotten pregnant? What if I think about it all the time. What if he wasn't the way he was, and like I actually had this great life in this family? Like, and then yeah, I get angry about why did he have to be the way he was? Why did he have to do these things? Like, why? Like, yeah, I get mad. Because even though I'm the one that left the situation in the relationship, I didn't leave because of me. I mean, I did. I wanted to save my life. But I wouldn't have left if he wasn't abusing me. So, I really don't have like a big takeaway from this. I'm sorry that this video is a little longer since I missed last week. And I kind of talked about things that weren't just my story, but a lot's been on my mind lately. And then, you know, that happened. I opened that box today. And do you know, honestly, as much as it hurts to look at those things sometimes, I sometimes get proud. And it's kind of funny because the reasons I get proud is because it's like, I survived. I survived, guys. And they always say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And to be honest with you, the woman I've been able to become since that relationship, bits and pieces of the old me before the relationship, but other parts of me wouldn't be me if I wouldn't have gone what I went through. So, a little bit of an acceptance there. And honestly, I'm loving who I'm becoming. Because it's a girl, a woman, who isn't scared anymore. Who wants to help other people. And honestly, my mind has just broadened so much to other situations and to other people and more understanding that I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I was given that understanding. I'm grateful that I was able to face a fear I never thought I would ever go through and come out on the other side stronger. And being able to speak up and tell my story without repercussions. Only repercussions is him breaking his no contact order, which we will get to that later too, guys. Anyway, I love you guys, and I hope you all are doing well. And I'm about to go to the grocery store. It's a little late, but I forgot some stuff. And I'm trying to do laundry. So, I gotta go to the store. But I love you guys. And I will for sure see you next week. I will not skip another week from here on out. And I do have a lot coming for you guys. I have a lot of recordings I've been listening to and going through so that I can play for you examples and real life stuff I was going through. Because, as I'll explain later, yes, I had a recording device at a certain point on me at all times. I'll explain why in another video when we get to that point. But, again, I love you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And please, 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 do not hesitate to reach out to me whatsoever, even if you just need someone to talk to. You may not want anything from me. You may just need to vent. Get some things off your chest. Feel free to do it, okay, guys? I am here. All right, I love y'all.